Hi there, and welcome to another social media video. This video is for Key Stage 3, which is ages 11 to 14 and centers on communication in social media. So first of all, we're going to go back to the real basics here. I want you guys at home to ask yourself, what are the differences between communication online and communication in person? So I'm going to run through a few of the ideas that I came up with. First of all, there's a bit of a lack of tone online. Secondly, anything you put online can be made permanent. Thirdly, messages and posts online can be extremely short, even just one word. Next, the idea that it could be shared anywhere. And finally, the fact that it is instant and that you can post anytime and communicate with anyone, anywhere. So first of all, I want to talk about tone. Tone in written communication is something that is so commonly debated, especially nowadays. There's this sort of general consensus, particularly with older people, that there is no tone in messages. But I completely disagree with that, to be honest. I think there are definitely ways to add tone into a message. For example, how do you think the person that sent this message is feeling? Not sure? It's very neutral, isn't it? It's very plain. It comes across a little bit rude in a casual conversation. Now, how about this one? Completely different tone there entirely. Just from the use of emojis and punctuation, we have a completely different view of this person. They're so excited, they're really happy. It's a really positive message, especially compared to the last one. There's definitely a sort of number one rule that gets thrown around quite a bit when we're talking about communication in social media. And that rule is, don't say anything to anyone online that you wouldn't say to them in real life. But I disagree, because I think there are definitely some things that you could risk saying in real life that you absolutely should not risk saying online. So while it is super important to stick to this rule, sometimes you have to think just a little bit harder. Ask yourself, is it necessary? Does it need to be said? Kind and fair? Is it hurtful or might it upset someone, whether that's indirectly through posts or directly to them through messages? Is it appropriate? You know what this means. Basically, no swearing, no inappropriate comments or humour, not even in memes. Just don't do it. Purposeful. This is actually a bit of a tough one, but you need to think to yourself, why am I posting this? And really ask yourself whether it's worth it. Building off this, you not only have to consider how many people could see your post, but you have to consider who those people are. For example, imagine you posted online, it's 3 AM and I've been playing for 6 hours, but I have finally achieved a victory royale in Fortnite. So you're just boasting a little bit that things went well for you in your game. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Now imagine if your mum sees it. I don't think she'd be too happy that you were staying up till 3 AM playing video games on a school night. And while this might get you in a little bit of trouble and maybe show that you're not the most responsible person, it's not really causing any large damage. However, imagine if you posted online, I can't learn anything in maths with that dork teaching me. I can't believe that he thinks that socks and sandals are a good look. Yeah, it just seems like a funny joke and I'm sure you and your classmates would have a good laugh at it, but imagine if that teacher actually saw that. Like we said before, there are ways for literally anyone to see the stuff you post online once it's out there. Not only could this be really hurtful for that teacher, but it could also get you in a heap of trouble. There are actually a couple of students in Atlanta in the USA a few years ago that actually got suspended because of something that they posted about their teacher online. Depending on what you post, saying something false and terrible about somebody can actually be classed as slander, which is against the law. Now imagine if you posted a status online full of swear words. I'm not going to say any of them on this presentation, but just imagine that you did. This is one of the easiest mistakes that young people make online. I regularly see people my age sharing posts full of swear words. It's kind of an absolutely terrible idea in most circumstances. It's totally unnecessary and can actually get you in a bit of trouble in your future. You guys might have heard this story, but last year there was a girl who received an internship from NASA. She was so excited that she immediately went on Twitter and tweeted about it. Unfortunately, this tweet was full of swear words. An older Twitter user then came on with just a response saying the word language, to which she replied some very bad language. It turned out that the guy who had replied to her tweet was actually quite high up in NASA, and she very quickly lost her internship. At the end of the day, there are plenty of other words in the dictionary. Another mistake that is really easy for young people to make online is sharing an offensive or dark humor meme or post. So the internet is a really good place for people to accidentally get into debates. With all those people, with all those different opinions, it's very common that a debate or an argument will just spark up out of nowhere. Especially with where the world is politically, young people are being forced to have opinions on really, really important and strong real world things. But something that commonly comes out of these debates is a bunch of memes or posts that mock the opposite opinion. But the really dangerous thing about these sort of posts is that they seem so harmless. It's so easy to say, oh, it's just a joke, right? It might be a bit cruel or rude, but it's just a joke. But imagine that someone who was affected by that post actually saw it and saw you share it. It's very easy to think that because it's online and because you only shared it and didn't create it, that it's somehow less offensive. But it's not. It can be bullying, and depending on what subject it's on, it can actually be a hate crime too. So online, always make sure to stay out of any debates. So that sort of leads us tidily into a subject that I'm sure you guys are very, very familiar with, and that is cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is real, cyberbullying is hurtful, and cyberbullying is dangerous. When I was growing up, people didn't actually realise that they could use social media to abuse people until I was about 14 or 15, when they were then thrown into this crazy new world where there was this new way of hurting people. But it's not going to be like that for you, because social media isn't something that just a few of you have heard of, or just something that you can just ignore and pretend doesn't even exist. Social media is inescapable for you guys, which means that the terrible people in your lives now have another way to abuse people, especially with the anonymity that the internet actually offers. But I don't want to talk about the bullies. They know what they're doing is wrong, and they know they should not be doing it. The people that I want to talk to and the people I want to talk about are the victims. Half of the people watching this video will experience cyberbullying at some point, but shockingly, only 10% of the people who experience it will actually tell anybody. Generally, the reasons that victims of cyberbullying have for not coming forward are very, very similar to those of regular bullying. There's this idea of, will I make it worse? Thinking that it's so embarrassing. Asking yourself, am I just overreacting? And being scared of, what if I get in trouble? So I want to address these worries. So if you're scared of making things worse, just remember that your teachers are very, very aware of the fact that you don't want to be seen as a snitch, and they will try to work in ways that completely avoid this. There are so many ways of dealing with cyberbullying that don't even come close to running the risk of escalating things for you. But if you do ever feel that you told an adult and nothing improved, there is always someone higher up that you can go to. Don't be afraid to go to an adult or member of staff with more power in that situation. In some situations, it's actually completely acceptable to go to the police about any abuse that you're receiving online. As for embarrassment, just remember that there is nothing to be embarrassed about. As I said before, half of the people watching this video will have experienced what you've experienced. You don't need to be embarrassed. The person who's doing this to you should be embarrassed. You should never, ever feel embarrassed about telling someone about any abuse or bullying that you are suffering. If you're worried that people will think that maybe you're overreacting or making a bigger deal out of something than you need to, just remember, if something really upsets you or makes you really uncomfortable, you're not overreacting by telling someone. You have the right to be happy. If you're worried about getting in trouble, it's worth it. So you do tell your parents and you get in a little bit of trouble because, say, you have a social media account that they didn't know about. So that tiny little negative impact of maybe having your phone taken off you is nothing compared to suffering through more continued abuse. It is definitely worth it. I can tell you that. Getting in a tiny bit of trouble because of something that you said or because of the fact that you've gone behind your parents' backs, it's worth it to stop the bullying that you're going through. So that's all that I have on communication and social media. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in safety and social media or jobs and social media, make sure to check out our Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 4 presentations on our website. Thanks again. Bye.